Dr. Nathan Reed cursed under his breath as his research vessel's warning systems blared through the cabin. The quantum drive had malfunctioned, sending his ship spiraling through an uncharted sector of space. As the chief xenobiologist for the Earth Science Corps, he'd been on countless solo research missions, but none had gone so catastrophically wrong. Warning lights flashed across his console as the ship's AI announced, "Critical system failure. Emergency landing protocols engaged." Through the view screen, Nathan watched as a blue-green planet grew larger, its atmosphere shimming with peculiar aurora-like patterns he'd never seen before. The landing was rough but controlled, his ship's emergency systems managing to prevent a complete disaster. As the dust settled around his crashed vessel, Nathan performed a quick system check. The quantum drive was beyond repair, and the communication array was damaged. He was stranded. Donning his environmental suit and grabbing his research kit, Nathan emerged into an alien landscape that took his breath away. Twin suns cast a purple-tinged light across a landscape of towering crystal-like formations and strange, bioluminescent vegetation. His sensors indicated breathable atmosphere, though slightly higher in oxygen than Earth normal. As he documented his surroundings, movement caught his eye. What he initially mistook for more crystalline formations were actually structures, buildings that seemed to grow from the ground itself, their surfaces shifting colors like liquid opals. Before he could process this discovery, he found himself surrounded by tall, graceful figures. The aliens were humanoid but distinctly different. Their skin had a subtle iridescence, and their eyes were large and faceted like gems. They moved with incredible grace, and Nathan noticed they all appeared to be female, though he knew better than to assume Earth-like gender dimorphism applied here. Their leader stepped forward, her presence commanding yet not threatening. She was taller than the others, with intricate markings that seemed to pulse with inner light across her skin. To Nathan's surprise, she spoke, not in words, but in colors that rippled across her skin and in emotional impressions that he could somehow understand. "Welcome, Star Traveler," the impression formed in his mind. "I am Vena, first speaker of the Luminari." The telepathic communication was unexpected but clear, likely facilitated by the unique properties of this world's atmosphere that his sensors had detected. Nathan responded carefully, focusing his thoughts. "I am Nathan Reed, a scientist from Earth. My ship was damaged, and I mean no harm." He felt his words translate into pulses of color and emotion that the aliens could understand. Vena's response carried curiosity and welcome. "The stars have brought you to us for a purpose, Nathan Reed. Our world, Lumina, has long awaited contact with others who seek knowledge rather than conquest." As Nathan followed them to their city, he realized this accident might be the greatest scientific discovery in human history. The Luminari were clearly advanced, but their technology was entirely biological, grown rather than built. Their buildings pulsed with life, and their society seemed to exist in perfect harmony with their environment. Over the next few days, Nathan learned that the Luminari were indeed a matriarchal society, but not in the way Earth histories depicted such cultures. Their leadership was based on ability to communicate with and nurture their living technology, a skill that manifested more strongly in female Luminari. Vena took particular interest in Nathan's scientific background, spending hours discussing the differences between their people's approaches to technology and understanding the universe. She showed him their archives, living crystals that stored memories and knowledge in patterns of light. "Your people build with metal and silicon," she observed. "We grow and nurture. Different paths to understanding, but perhaps complementary?" Her colors shifted in patterns that Nathan was beginning to recognize as thoughtful contemplation. Nathan found himself fascinated not just by their technology, but by their entire way of life. The Luminari had achieved things Earth scientists had only dreamed of: perfect sustainable energy, biological computers, living architecture. Yet they remained humble, viewing themselves as caretakers rather than masters of their world. As the twin sun set, casting the crystal city in sheets of rainbow light, Nathan realized he no longer felt like a stranded survivor. He was an explorer on the verge of something extraordinary, something that could change both their worlds. But as he watched Venna directing the city's evening transformation, he wondered if he was remaining objective enough to maintain his scientific perspective. The real question was, would his eventual rescue bring understanding between their peoples, or would it end this unique chance for peaceful first contact? As he retired to the living quarters they'd grown for him, Nathan knew tomorrow would bring new discoveries, and new complications, to his unexpected adventure on this remarkable world. Nathan's second week among the Luminari brought discoveries that challenged everything he thought he knew about advanced civilizations. The living city, which he learned was called Prisma, responded to its inhabitants' needs in real time, shifting and growing to accommodate their activities. But it was the deeper aspects of their society that truly fascinated him. During one of their daily knowledge exchanges, Venna revealed something unexpected. "Our world is changing," she said, her skin rippling with concerned patterns. "The crystal forests grow restless, and the harmonic frequencies that sustain our technology have begun to shift." Nathan had noticed the increasing instability in the crystal formations surrounding the city. The beautiful structures that had once hummed with gentle resonance now produced discordant frequencies that set his teeth on edge. His scientific curiosity was piqued, but he could see the genuine worry in Venna's color patterns. "Could my presence here be affecting the harmonics?" he asked, concerned that his arrival might have disrupted their ecosystem. Venna's colors shifted to what he now recognized as thoughtful consideration. "No, Nathan. These changes began before your arrival. We believe it's connected to the approaching stellar alignment of our binary suns. The last time this occurred was beyond even our oldest living memories." As they spoke, a younger luminari named Lyra approached, her colors flickering with excitement. She was one of their most gifted crystal shapers, able to coax the living crystals into complex forms. "First speaker, we've discovered something in the ancient growth chambers," she announced, her patterns showing urgency. The ancient growth chambers were deep beneath the city, predating even the Luminari's earliest records. Nathan followed Venna and Lyra through living corridors that spiraled downward, watching in amazement as bioluminescent patterns lit their way. The chamber they entered took his breath away, a vast cavern filled with crystalline structures that seemed to pulse with their own inner light. "These are memory crystals," Venna explained, her colors subdued with awe. "But they're far older than any we've encountered before." She approached one of the largest formations, placing her hand against its surface. The crystal responded immediately, flooding the chamber with images and impressions from an ancient time. Nathan watched in amazement as the history of Lumina played out before them. The crystals showed a time when the Luminari's ancestors first discovered how to communicate with their living world, but also revealed a devastating truth: the binary star system's alignment had nearly destroyed their civilization once before. "The harmonic disruptions will grow stronger," Lyra interpreted from the ancient memories, her colors paling with concern. "When the suns align, they'll create a resonance that could shatter every crystal structure on Lumina." Nathan's scientific mind raced with possibilities. His ship's damaged quantum drive had been designed to work with specific frequencies. Perhaps there was a way to adapt that technology to help stabilize the planetary harmonics. But explaining quantum mechanics to a civilization that had evolved along entirely different technological lines would be challenging. "Venna," he said carefully, "my people have developed ways to manipulate energy frequencies that might help. But I'll need to understand more about how your crystal technology works." The idea of combining Earth's quantum science with Luminari crystal technology was either brilliant or foolhardy, possibly both. Venna's colors shifted through patterns of hope and uncertainty. "Such a merger of our sciences has never been attempted. But perhaps that's exactly what's needed." She turned to Lyra. "Gather the Crystal Council. We must discuss this." As they ascended from the ancient chambers, Nathan felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. He had come to care deeply about the Luminari and their beautiful world. Their way of life represented everything humanity had strived for: perfect harmony with their environment, sustainable technology, peaceful cooperation. He couldn't stand by and watch it all be destroyed. That evening, as he worked in the living laboratory they had grown for him, Nathan felt Vena's presence before he saw her. Her colors were muted, thoughtful. "The Council has agreed to share our crystal-shaping knowledge with you," she said. "But Nathan, you should know that the process of learning our ways can change a person. The connection to the living crystals becomes part of you." Nathan looked up from his work, meeting her iridescent gaze. "I understand the risk," he said quietly. "But sometimes the greatest discoveries require us to change our perspective entirely." He didn't add that he had already begun to see the universe differently since arriving on Lumina, and that change had started the moment he first met Vena. As the twin sun set outside, casting rainbow refractions through the crystal city, Nathan began to understand that his crash landing on Lumina hadn't just been an accident. It was an opportunity to bridge two vastly different approaches to science and civilization. Whether that bridge would be enough to save Lumina from the coming catastrophe remained to be seen, but he was determined to try. The process of learning crystal shaping was unlike anything Nathan had experienced in his scientific career. For 3 days, he sat in meditation with Lyra and other young shapers, learning to sense the living energy that flowed through Lumina's crystal networks. At first, he felt nothing but frustration, his analytical mind struggling to grasp concepts that defied conventional physics. "You're thinking too much," Lyra told him, her colors flickering with gentle amusement. "Feel the resonance. The crystals aren't just structures, they're expressions of Lumina's living energy." On the 4th day, everything changed. Nathan felt a sudden connection, like a new sense awakening. The crystals around him sang with complex harmonies he could now perceive. When he opened his eyes, he saw Vena watching him, her colors showing pride and something deeper he couldn't quite interpret. "You've done it," she said softly. "Very few outsiders have ever achieved resonance with our crystals." But her celebration was cut short as a tremor shook the chamber, the crystals around them humming with discordant frequencies. The disruptions were getting worse. Nathan's newly awakened senses could feel the growing instability in the crystal networks that powered and sustained the Luminari civilization. Working with Lyra and a team of crystal shapers, he began adapting his quantum drive stabilization principles to their living technology. The quantum field generator creates a bubble of stable spacetime, he explained to the Crystal Council, using patterns of color and emotion to convey complex scientific concepts. "If we can sync it with your crystal networks, we might be able to dampen the harmful resonances from the binary stars." But as they worked, a new threat emerged. The disruptions had awakened something in Lumina's deep crystal caverns. Ancient defense systems, created by the original crystal shapers, were activating chaotically. Living crystal constructs, designed to protect the city, now rampaged through the lower levels, their programming corrupted by the unstable harmonics. "We must shut them down," Vena declared, her colors fierce with determination. "These guardians were created to protect our people, not harm them." She turned to Nathan. "Your understanding of both our technologies might be the key to reprogramming them." The mission into the deep caverns was dangerous. Nathan, Vena, and Lyra led a team of skilled shapers through crystalline corridors that pulsed with increasingly erratic energy. They encountered their first guardian at a junction of ancient power conduits, a massive crystalline construct that shifted between solid and energy forms. Nathan's heart raced as he combined his new crystal shaping abilities with his scientific knowledge. The Guardian's core programming was similar to Earth's quantum computers, but it operated on principles of living energy rather than electronic signals. Working quickly, he and Lyra established a resonance link with the construct while Vena's team held off its defensive attacks. "There's a pattern here," Nathan said excitedly, his colors pulsing with sudden understanding. "The Guardians aren't just malfunctioning, they're trying to warn us about something." He delved deeper into the construct's memory crystal, and what he found chilled him. The last stellar alignment hadn't just disrupted the crystals, it had nearly shattered the planet's core. The ancient Luminari had created the Guardians not just for defense, but as part of a planetary stabilization network. Now that network was failing, and the Guardians were responding to a threat far greater than they had imagined. "We're not just facing crystal disruption," Nathan explained, his colors showing urgent concern. The harmonic resonance from the binary stars could tear Lumina apart at a molecular level. The Guardians were part of a planetary shield system. Vena's response was interrupted by another tremor, stronger than before. Crystal shards rained down around them as the cavern shook. Through his new senses, Nathan could feel the planet's crystal networks screaming in disharmony. "How long do we have?" Lyra asked, her colors pale with fear. Nathan's calculations were grim. "The stellar alignment will reach its peak in less than 3 days. If we can't restore the planetary shield by then." He didn't need to finish the thought. They all knew what was at stake. As they emerged from the caverns, Nathan caught Vena looking at the twin suns, their orbits visibly converging. Her colors showed not just worry for her people, but a deep personal conflict he was beginning to understand all too well. "Nathan," she said quietly, "what we're attempting, combining your quantum science with our crystal technology, it's never been done. The energy requirements alone could burn out every crystal network in the city." "Then we'll find another way," he replied firmly. "I didn't come across the galaxy to watch your world die." He didn't add that his feelings for her and her people had grown far beyond scientific curiosity or even friendship. As they began planning their desperate attempt to save Lumina, Nathan's damaged emergency beacon suddenly activated, piercing the crystal harmonies with its artificial signal. Someone had heard it. Earth ships were coming. The timing couldn't have been worse. Could he convince his own people to help save Lumina? Or would their arrival only complicate an already desperate situation? Looking at Vena's concerned face, Nathan knew one thing for certain: he would not abandon these people, no matter what Earth's response might be. The Earth ships arrived just as the twin suns' convergence began to paint Lumina's sky in sheets of violent energy. 3 vessels descended through the atmosphere, a rescue cruiser and 2 research ships. Nathan watched their approach from Prisma's central spire, his enhanced senses feeling the discord their engines created in the crystal harmonies. Commander Laura Blackwood, Earth Science Corps, the lead officer, introduced herself after landing. Her eyes widened as she took in the crystal city and its iridescent inhabitants. "Dr. Reed, when we picked up your beacon, we expected to find you in dire straits. This is unexpected." "Commander," Nathan replied carefully, "we have an emergency situation here that goes far beyond my rescue." He could feel Vena's tension through the crystal networks, her colors muted with concern. The other Luminari present maintained careful distance from the Earth delegation. Nathan quickly explained the crisis, the approaching stellar alignment, the threat to Lumina's structure, and their desperate plan to combine Earth and Luminari technology. Commander Blackwood listened with growing alarm. "You're talking about interfacing our quantum technology with an alien biological system we barely understand," she said. "The risks are necessary," Nathan interrupted. "Without intervention, this planet dies in less than 2 days. And with it, a civilization that could teach us more than we've learned in centuries of space exploration." The commander's science officer, Dr. Wilson, stepped forward with interest. "The applications of this crystal technology could revolutionize our own sciences. Perhaps we should consider evacuation instead, preserve the knowledge while ensuring everyone's safety?" Nathan felt Vena's colors flare with sudden anger before she controlled them. "Lumina is not a laboratory for your studies," she said, her translated thoughts crisp and clear. "We are its guardians, not its owners. We will not abandon it." Commander Blackwood raised her hands in a peaceful gesture. "No one's making any demands. But Dr. Reed, you understand we need to follow protocols here. This is first contact with an advanced civilization. There are procedures. Another tremor rocked the city, stronger than before. Through the crystal networks, Nathan felt the ancient guardian constructs responding to the increasing instability. They were running out of time. "Commander," he said firmly, "in 40 hours, the stellar alignment will reach its peak. If we haven't stabilized the planetary crystal network by then, there won't be anything left to make first contact with. I'm not asking for permission, I'm asking for help." A tense silence followed. Nathan felt Vena's presence beside him, her colors showing support and something more personal that made his heart race. Finally, Commander Blackwood nodded. "What do you need?" The next hours were a blur of activity. The Earth ship's quantum cores were carefully positioned around Prisma's central spire, interfaced with the city's crystal network through adapters Nathan and Lyra had designed. Dr. Wilson worked with the crystal shapers, his initial skepticism giving way to wonder as he learned to sense the living energies. But as they worked, Nathan noticed something troubling. The crystal resonance patterns were changing in ways he didn't understand. Vena felt it too. "The Guardians," she said suddenly. "They're trying to tell us something again." Her colors pulsed with urgent realization. "Nathan, come with me." They descended to the ancient chambers, where the Guardian constructs had gathered. Through their shared crystal sense, Nathan finally understood their warning. The planetary shield wasn't failing, it was adapting. The stellar alignment wasn't just a threat, it was part of a natural cycle. The crystals weren't meant to be protected from it, but to be transformed by it. "We've been approaching this all wrong," Nathan explained to the combined Earth and Luminary teams. "The alignment will change the fundamental frequency of every crystal on Lumina. Fighting that change could tear the planet apart. We need to help guide the transformation instead." Commander Blackwood looked skeptical. "You're talking about completely reconfiguring our quantum cores. If we're wrong. We're not," Vena interrupted, her colors intense. "This is what my ancestors understood. Change is not always a threat to be prevented. Sometimes it must be embraced and guided." The next hours were the most challenging of Nathan's life. Working with both teams, they reprogrammed the quantum cores to amplify and guide the crystal transformation rather than fight it. The ancient guardians joined their efforts, their combined energies creating a network that spanned the planet. As the twin suns moved into their final alignment, Nathan and Vena stood in the crystal heart of Prisma. Their hands were linked, both physical and energy selves joined in concentration. Around them, the entire city hummed with power as two vastly different technologies worked together to guide a planet through its evolution. "Nathan," Vena said softly, her colors showing deep emotion, "whatever happens, know that you've changed more than just our world. You've shown us that different paths can lead to the same truth." The alignment reached its peak. Energy cascaded through the crystal networks in blinding waves. Nathan held on to Vena as their world transformed around them, hoping they had made the right choice, knowing that either way, nothing would ever be the same. When the light faded and the energy settled, Lumina had changed. The crystal structures that made up Prisma now pulsed with new frequencies, their colors deeper and more vibrant than before. Through his enhanced senses, Nathan felt the difference. The entire planet seemed more alive, more aware. The transformation had succeeded, but not in the way anyone had expected. The merger of quantum technology and crystal energy had catalyzed something entirely new. The Guardian constructs had integrated with the city systems, creating a unified network that spanned the planet. Most surprisingly, the changes hadn't stopped with Lumina's crystal structures. "The resonance has changed us too," Vena said, her colors shifting through patterns Nathan had never seen before. The Luminari themselves had evolved, their connection to their world growing stronger and more sophisticated. Their ability to communicate through color and energy had expanded, becoming richer and more nuanced. Commander Blackwood and her team were stunned by the implications. "This goes beyond first contact," she said. What we've witnessed here, it changes everything we thought we knew about technological development, about evolution itself. Not changes, Nathan corrected. Expands. The Luminari always understood something we're only beginning to grasp. True advancement isn't about dominating natural forces, but about growing with them. He felt Vena's approval through their shared connection, stronger now than ever before. The Earth ship's quantum cores had been permanently altered by their integration with Lumina's crystal network. Dr. Wilson's preliminary analysis suggested that the principles they discovered could revolutionize Earth's approach to energy, computing, and environmental restoration. "We're prepared to establish formal diplomatic relations," Commander Blackwood announced. The Earth Science Corps would be honored to serve as intermediaries between our worlds. She paused, looking at Nathan. "We'll need someone who understands both cultures to help guide this process." Nathan felt Vena's colors shift with concern. They both knew what this meant, a choice had to be made. But before he could speak, Lyra rushed into the chamber, her colors bright with excitement. "The ancient archives," she said breathlessly. "They've awakened. The transformation didn't just change our present, it's given us access to our past." The memory crystals in the deep chambers had been revitalized, revealing histories and knowledge that had been lost for generations. Among these revelations was a startling truth: the Luminari's ancestors had once traveled among the stars, not in metal ships, but in living vessels grown from crystal. The knowledge of how to create these ships had been lost during the last great transformation, but now. "We don't have to choose," Vena said, her colors showing joy and possibility. "Our worlds can truly meet as equals, sharing both space and knowledge." She turned to Commander Blackwood. "We offer an exchange: help us remember how to grow our starships, and we'll help you understand how to work with living crystal technology." The implications were enormous. Earth would gain access to sustainable, living technology that could solve many of its environmental challenges. The Luminari would return to the stars, bringing their wisdom and unique perspective to the galactic community. Both civilizations would grow stronger through cooperation rather than competition. Nathan looked at Vena, seeing in her iridescent eyes the same vision of possibility. Their connection had grown into something that transcended both their species, a bridge between two ways of understanding the universe. "There will be challenges," he said to both groups. "Our peoples are very different. But that's our strength, not our weakness. Together, we can achieve things neither of us could alone." Over the next few months, as Earth and Lumina established their historic partnership, the crystal city of Prisma became a symbol of this new cooperation. Earth scientists worked alongside Luminari crystal shapers, learning from each other and making discoveries that benefited both worlds. The first new crystal starship began growing in Prisma's orbital gardens 6 months later. It was a hybrid design, incorporating both quantum technology and living crystal, a physical representation of what could be achieved through understanding and cooperation. Standing in the control chamber of this new vessel, Nathan felt Vena's presence beside him, their shared connection now a constant reminder of how far they'd both come. Through the crystal walls, they could see both Lumina's transformed surface and the distant stars that awaited them. "Ready for another adventure?" Vena asked, her colors showing love and excitement. Nathan smiled, feeling the ship's living systems respond to their combined influence. "With you? Always." As the crystal starship rose from Lumina's surface, carrying representatives of both worlds, Nathan reflected on how a simple crash landing had led to this moment. Sometimes the greatest discoveries came not from careful planning, but from being willing to embrace the unexpected, to learn from those different from ourselves, and to face change not with fear but with hope. The ship moved gracefully into space, its crystal structure shimmering with combined quantum and living energy, a testament to what humanity and Luminari could achieve together. It was more than just a vessel, it was a promise of a future where different paths could lead to shared discoveries, and where understanding bridged the gaps between worlds. Behind them, Lumina's twin suns painted the crystal city in rainbow lights, while ahead, the stars beckoned with endless possibilities. The real journey, the exploration of what their two peoples could achieve together, was just beginning.